guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I have a special guest. We are going to be talking about investing. Investing in Europe. I know that this is probably the biggest hurdle that people have when they come here, and I want to tackle it. So this video is not just for you, but it's also for me. So we have a very special guest here with us. Dami. Dami, if you've been following me for some time, you must have seen Dami before on my YouTube channel. But I will let him introduce himself to all of you that don't know him, and then we can start talking about investing today.
My name is Olodam Larry. This is my second time on this channel. I currently live in the Republic of Actually, I don't live in Lithuania anymore. I currently live in the Netherlands. Moved here exactly 7 months ago from Lithuania. Working here. I'm a security engineer, as you probably know from previous video. That's a brief introduction.
So since you mentioned now that you're no more living in like it's not possible for me to just slide over that and not talk about it. So why did you leave Lithuania? And how are you doing in the Netherlands?
Doing very great. I love it here, just the same way I loved my 3 years in Lithuania. I pretty much moved here because of career advancement and the potential or possibility of starting a family. I was looking for a much more foreigner-friendly country and a country with maybe an easier pathway to getting a permanent residency. And Netherlands and Ireland were top of my list, so that's pretty much why I left.
I remember, I don't know if you mentioned it in the last video, actually, you talking about Ireland as well. And it's interesting that you chose Amsterdam. So was there any specific thing that made you choose Netherlands?
To be honest, it was just the offer that I got first, right? I got an offer in Ireland, but I already accepted an offer in in Netherlands, so it was just a matter of I already I started applying for my resident permit here. I can as well just continue.
Uh,
So it was just a matter of the one that came first.
Okay, okay. Well, seriously, guys, I want to dive into this topic because I think that one thing that happens when people come to Lithuania, some people get stuck. They stay here for 10 years, well, I'm turning 10 years soon, but they stay here for long, and most of the time it's because they don't know how to navigate, they don't know what to do next. So I truly, Dami, if you will come back to this channel and tell us more about relocating from one European country to the next, I would
Mhm.
truly appreciate it. I think it would bring insights for people that are here. Would you?
I like to talk, so that's gonna be fine.
Okay, so that's definitely gonna be our next topic. But today, guys, we are talking about investing. Like I said, investing is a big deal. I know even more about investing in USA. I know very much about investing in the UK. I know information about investing in Nigeria. But you see, when it comes to this Lithuania, when it comes to Europe, like the information, when there is the language barrier, there's a lot of things that can truly impaired your desire to invest. So Dami, I want you to, give us that information. When it comes to investing, when did you start investing stuff and how did you start investing?
Okay, so I started investing while I was still in Nigeria. I have two advantage. One was I have a mother that was keen on investing, right? She used to invest in the stock market at the time, as well as in fixed deposits and the likes. So I've been exposed to that from when I was, maybe a teenager. Didn't know what it meant, but I hear my mom say, I bought XYZ shares, but I bought some for you, but I didn't know what it meant. So that's my first exposure to investment.
Mm.
Second exposure was I was lucky enough that my first two jobs post NYC were in banks, right? And what that meant was I was a customer service personnel in Stanbic, and I was receiving calls about mutual funds, fixed deposits, high yield savings accounts. So I had to know what the products were,
Mm.
right? Because I need to be able to explain to the customer even before I was working for the bank, not the investment arm.
Mm.
If I transfer you to the investment arm, I still need to know the subject matter that we are, discussing about. So I had to read on those products. So I was exposed to money, mutual funds, money markets, and the likes. So that was the second exposure into that. Then, as a result of working in the organization, I started to invest in the mutual funds market
Mm.
because that felt the easiest. I didn't have to start doing market analysis, trying to find out which stock is better to buy, or pretty much individual stock speaking. I
Yeah.
didn't need to worry about that. All I have to do is give them fund manager my money, and they figure it out and give me my returns. So that's my introduction to investing proper. Like, okay, I am now putting money into the investment fund.
Invest in Europe, and where did you start?
When I got to Europe, I didn't know where to start. I'm not going to lie to you. I was researching. I was because then it didn't make sense. I was already earning euros, right? I couldn't convert to naira, then now start investing in the same mutual fund. That didn't make sense. The other option I had was there was a dollar fund. Stanbic IBTC has a dollar mutual fund. GT Bank has a dollar mutual fund. So the option I had was to convert my euros to dollars, then invest. But I had to transfer the money to a domiciliary account in Nigeria, then now send the money to the fund manager's account. I would lose a couple of money here and there. When you go to YouTube and you're researching on how to invest, a lot of the information is coming from the US.
Yeah, or the
So
UK.
from the UK. Yeah, the UK. But majority of the investment channels were US domiciled. So I wasn't getting the information. I was seeing a few, because the way mobile phones work on the internet, once you're searching for something, you keep getting adverts. I was getting what appeared to be fraudulent investment options in US or in Europe. I was getting those kind of adverts, and I was like, I don't trust this. So I kept researching, and I was like, for my first 1 or 2 years living up in Lithuania, I didn't invest. First 2 years actually, 2022, 2023, I was saving a lot. I budget. Immediately my salary comes in, I remove a certain amount for saving and whatnot. So I was saving a lot, right? But I wasn't getting interest because I didn't know where to put the money.
Yeah.
So it was a big problem. Then luckily, somehow, Revolut introduced the investment portion of into their app. So I was like, oh, this is interesting. I can now invest. But the idea is, what then do you need to invest in? So I now started doing research, watching YouTube videos, reading a lot of blogs, and I eventually found out that because of my exposure to mutual funds, the next best thing for me was to invest in ETFs, which is currently the majority of my portfolio. And I started with Revolut. I've moved my money out of Revolut. We might end up talking about that later.
We're definitely going to end up talking about this. That's what we're here, right? You talked about starting with Revolut. Yeah. If you're going to give someone a recommendation, or for me that wants to start investing, where should I start?
Okay, so choosing a platform is important. There are a few things you need to consider when choosing your broker. Number one is, are they regulated? Number two, the country of the domicile, right? You need it to be in an European country that has strict regulations, Germany, Netherlands, Ireland, the likes. But it has to be in a country where you're sure the regulation is not only there, it can be enforced, right? That's number two. Number three is, it's not a deal breaker only if you plan to invest for 20, 30 years, in the sense that it would be nice to have a broker that allows you to transfer your shares. What that means is, there are two ways of switching your broker. Number one is, the easiest is, you sell all your shares, you get your cash, you import it into the new broker, you buy the same value of shares again. That's the easiest option. But
now we are talking. You are confusing me now, because I think that's one thing with investing. Like, once they start speaking the big thing, my head will just be like, I'm out. So let's simplify it for us so that we can start.
The broker should give you the option to move your money from one broker to another without selling it. So what is going to happen is, if I have 1,000 shares of Apple stocks, I should be able to move that 1,000 from A to B without selling it. So what I would do is, I would wake up tomorrow and I have 0 in A, but I now have 100 in B. Right? So that's what it means, transfer of shares. The reason why that is good is, if you sell your shares, the moment you sell it and you've made profit, most countries would, you are already eligible for capital gain tax. Meaning, when you make profit from investing, the government wants their share. The same way the government wants its share from your income. Right? So you don't want that.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So that's why I said it might be nice to find a broker that allows you to transfer your shares without selling them off and then having to pay tax on it. To avoid that, you can always move your money from, maybe you're not more satisfied with Revolut. I can just tell Revolut, hey, I want to move my money to Trade Republic, which is what I did. But in my own situation, I had to sell off. So that's
So how do we find a broker? When we want to start, like someone that doesn't know anywhere to go to, like, how do I find a broker to start my initial investment?
What I did was, I went onto YouTube and I typed 10 best brokers in Europe. Some useful videos came up. Then I started doing individual research on those brokers. There are a lot. There's a lot. I wouldn't mention them now. But again, the idea for me is, and that's going to be my advice to anyone, is just start. You can start figuring out other things later, but start. Like, you have to start, which is what I did. So I started, I was satisfied with the service I was getting with Revolut. I set a goal that once my money hits a certain amount, I wanted to transfer it to a broker that allows me to transfer without selling off, right? So when I hit that number, I stopped investing in my Revolut I stopped using Revolut as a broker. I started investing in Trade Republic. Then I stopped investing in Revolut. Was investing in Trade Republic. Then in the beginning of this year, I decided to sell all of my shares in Revolut, got the money, moved it into my Trade Republic, bought the same value of shares. But funny thing, 2 weeks later, Revolut actually now sent me an email that they allow transfer of shares. So I probably would have chosen also.
Oh, too late for that. It's too late. People that don't know what Revolut is a bank, and they allow you to save money, to do a lot of things. I use Revolut as well. Like, it's probably one of the easiest apps that I use when it comes to banking. So that's what Revolut is. But Dami, tell us, like, when I want to start investing, how much are we talking about here? Is it, I see people say start investing as little as €1. Is this true? How much exactly would be great start?
In all honesty, I strongly feel that, at least from everybody I've interacted with that lives abroad, from my understanding, this is not the US, right? No shit whatsoever. But everybody I've spoken to, all of my friends in Europe that work and maybe don't have student debt, every single one of them most times can actually set aside €100 to invest from the people I've spoken with. So I'd say the benchmark should be from your income, except if you are doing paycheck to paycheck, which most likely is not once you're in that situation, then you probably need to reduce your expenses, right? But let's assume you're not doing paycheck to paycheck. Starting with €100 is ideal. Now, remember I said start. Once you've started, you begin to build an habit. And at some point, what will end up happening is, if you don't invest next month, you feel like something is missing. So what will end up happening is you would remember and you probably would invest the next month. So just start. And the beautiful thing about investing, at least for me, it's psychological in the sense that I put €1,000 somewhere and I see that I've gotten €10 in returns. I'm like, oh, this is nice. I'm interested in putting some more money next week, right? So that affects me. It's a psychological thing. Sometimes I just go to check my portfolio to just be happy, and it lightens up my mood. Like, oh, we're doing well over there. So that's start with at least 100. Then with time you can increase it to 300, 500, 1,000, 2,000.
When I think about €100, that makes sense to me now because I'm employed. Yeah, is it possible to start with less? That's one thing that I want to know, because there are students that are watching this video and they're thinking, can I start? Because they have access to Revolut, right? Can I start with less? Do you think you can start with less? And what is the return on investment that you think someone can make?
So you can start with less. You can start with €1 actually. That's why you hear people say €1, because the minimum amount you can put into to buy something in Revolut is like €1, right? But I would not tell you to
do that.
In as much as I don't want to say it's insignificant, it doesn't make sense for you to just buy €1 worth of a share. You're going to probably get 0.0001 fraction of an Apple stock with that, right? It might be good to test the app and test if the process, but putting €1 every month into an investment account is not it at all, right? So I would say €50 is ideal.
Okay.
Right? Every month, €50, €20 every month. The idea for me is, number one, starting. Number two, building consistency. So I would say €20 actually. You're a student, you don't have as much as €50 to give out every month, which I'm sure you probably pay subscriptions that are worth more than €50 every month, if I'm being honest. €10 Netflix, €10 Apple TV, blah blah blah. So €20 every month is a good start. Then you can now start building up, depending on an increase in your income. And
when I go on Revolut, right, and how do I know what is the good investment to do?
So look at investment as a commitment to the potential growth of a company, right? And what I mean by that is the beautiful thing about investing now is you don't have to pick individual stocks, right? And what I mean by that is you don't have to bet on Amazon growing, Apple growing, Meta growing, Nvidia growing, right? Because what will end up happening is you can't, as a beginner investor, you don't have the technical knowledge to do market analysis, check their balance sheet, check their reports, and determine, okay, there's going to be a potential growth, right? So because you don't have that knowledge, there's something called, index funds and index funds. Now, what those do is they help you track certain indexes. Let's break it down a little bit. So what an ETF will do is there's something called the S&P 500. It's an index, and what that index does is it tracks the performance of the top 500 companies in the US. So it means that if I buy a unit of the S&P, an ETF that tracks the S&P 500, what I've done is, if I invested 100 euros, I would have split my 100 euros into multiple different companies all at once. So what you're doing is, one, you're diversifying. You're not just putting 100 euros into Apple. Your 100 euros might be split in 10 euros to Apple, 10 euros to Meta, 5 euros to Google, and like that. So it splits, you put in 100 euros into the system and it splits it across multiple companies, right? So it saves you the headache of having to check which stock is better, which one should I sell off, and the likes. So that's a good thing. And these ETFs, they have good track records. Take for instance the S&P 500 index at the moment. I did it yesterday because of this call. In the last 30 years, it has returned about 11 to 12% average in the last 30 years, right? So that means every year you're probably going to get, let's assume this carries on for the next 30 years again. It means every year, averagely, you're guaranteed an average of another, say, 10%, right? Now, the thing is, I keep using the word average because last year, the S&P did close to 30. So what ends up happening is it might do 30 this year, it might do 10 next year, it might do negative 10 the following year, then it goes back to 20 this year. But you're sure that, and that's why they say investing is a long-term game. Because on the short term, your chances of losing money is high. When you play the long-term game, your chances of actually, making a whole lot of return is then higher.
There's a possibility of loss, right, to happen. What kind of losses am I expecting with my 20 euro that as a student, I'm already suffering to bring out? Now I'm going to lose it. Did you suffer any losses? And what kind of losses are people likely to have when they start investing?
So I've not suffered any loss. When you buy a stock or an ETF, you don't lose until you sell at a loss. So currently, when I bought AMD early last year, it was supposed to, it's a semiconductor stock, it's supposed to go up, but for some weird reason it didn't do that. And I'm currently down by 40%. But I don't worry because I've not sold it, right? So if I sell it today, then I've made a loss. And that's why I said, see investment as a long-term game. So this year, the chances of AMD bouncing back is dishonest. And as a result, I didn't lose anything, right? So that's why individual stock picking might be challenging because you're now exposed to whatever market volatility of that particular stock, right? So as a beginner, my recommendation would be stay away from individual stock picking for now, except of course you have a strong conviction. I put money in Nvidia early this year. I made about 20% capital gain. I sold it and put it back in S&P because I can't be bothered by checking if Nvidia is doing well, if it's not doing well. It's my loss because eventually they ended the year at about 130 something. Wow. 130 something percent.
Wow. Okay.
I sold when I had made 20%. But I don't mind. I don't care. Because again, I'm a moderate or medium level risk. My risk appetite is sort of in the moderate level. So I'm fine with leaving 100% on the table and just give me my 20%. I'm good with that.
I don't know, I think that the burden of investing is somehow coming out of me right now. I'm hearing that I can start with as little as €1, but again, good rates start with 20, 50, 100 monthly. And think about it as a long-term plan. Your return on investment is around 10%, 20%. Again, it depends on the investment that you have, and you can start easily with Revolut. Everything I'm hearing is good, good, good. Dami, is there any downside to investing?
So the downside to investment would be, and we've already talked about navigating that initially. The downside is you invest in a fraudulent broker and they don't buy your shares, right? So I use fraudulent broker in the sense that technically, even if a broker goes bankrupt, the fact that if they really bought your shares, and that's why you need one that is heavily regulated, if they bought that shares, even if they go down, your shares still exist. All they need to do is just say, hello guys, we are transferring your shares to a new broker. Open an account with them and you see your money in that new broker. Right? So that's why losing your money when you buy shares is almost non-existent in the sense of if your broker goes down. Again, except of course if you went to open with a 2-day-old broker, not regulated, is in one funny country, and they don't buy your shares, but they are showing you on the app you have so number, but they didn't buy it. So that's where you can lose money. But that is easy to avoid as long as you just go to a company that does in fact follow regulations and is in a country where regulations are strictly applied. So that's a potential way of losing money.
I know that Revolut doesn't allow certain people to open their accounts now. If I don't have Revolut, what other broker am I looking for right now? And how do I know they are regulated?
Watch a YouTube video, top 10 brokers in Europe. You get a list, then you do a research. Now, when you go to the company website, because they want to show you that we are reputable, on the website, most likely the first page, they start telling you we're regulated by the Central Bank of Lithuania, right? They give you their ID number. So you can go to the Central Bank of Lithuania website and verify if, these guys are truly incorporated, if these guys do in fact stuff like that. So those are ways to do it. At the end of the day, you just have to go by what's on the website and try to validate from maybe the stock exchange regulators in the company. As long as those two things match and check, then you should be good to go. So yeah, that's pretty much a way to validate if a broker is legit or not. Even investment platforms, which I'm calling brokers in this case, the ones in Nigeria like Bamboo, they actually follow strict regulations of both the US SEC and the ones in Nigeria as well, right? So investing with Bamboo is, for your viewers in Nigeria, it's also pretty safe because they have to, before they even got a license, there was like strict scrutiny and ensuring that, okay, you guys must follow A, B, C, D. And every year, licenses are not just given and they're like, we've given you, it's forever. Every year we do an audit, we do a compliance check to ensure that you're really doing what you say you're doing. And we give you a recertification. If at any point they do a check and they find out these guys are lacking, they can decide to either withdraw the license or give you an FT fine so that it stops you from repeating the same offense.
So now you talked about Nigeria, which I think, let's talk about investment in Nigeria, not just like stocks, ETFs, just investment in general. I know that some people that are living abroad, what they do is they buy lands, they buy properties in Nigeria, and sometimes they have a loss from buying those things, or they buy a property that they never do anything with. So you spent like 60 million naira, for example, buying a land, and with the hope that the land is going to appreciate and you have more money. So it's literally sitting there not having any return. So what do you think about investment in like back home, taking investment back home?
Investment, real estate is, you can't go wrong with real estate. One of the things I currently do at the moment, or is a big plan for me, is every year I just want to buy a land or a plot or two in any state, right? Or I have certain states on my list. I'm not doing it because I want to catch in now. I just want to keep doing it, or it's at least a plan of mine. Started already. So the idea is just buy a random piece of land safely, and there, fence it, and maybe in the next 15 years, I just sell everything off, right? And whatever income I get from selling them off, I can just use that and build a house back home in Nigeria, right? So that's a way to go, or that's what I'm doing. The other option is obviously invest in Nigerian companies. It's easy to buy Nigerian companies shares. But again, the problem with that is you need to understand market analysis, which I do not understand, right? And most beginners won't understand. But also there are ETFs in Nigeria, right? I just a big IBTC as a couple. So all you need to do is just research Nigerian ETFs, and you get a few results. You can get a very good rate of say 15%. But technically, because inflation is high in Nigeria, yes, you're getting 15%, but a lot of it will get eroded by inflation. But the idea of investing is preservation. You first one, preserve the value of your money against inflation. Then two, capital gains, right? So you can't go wrong in investing, to be honest. And that's why I keep hammering. You have to start.
But what I'm hearing is like start first with it, like investing in Europe if you're already here, and then as you grow now, you can start investing back home instead of like doing it vice versa, trying to buy land and then now trying. Okay.
So, at least in my opinion,
of course,
I'd rather buy a house here in Europe first before buying a house back home, because I live here. Why am I buying a 50 million, 100 million house back in Nigeria and I'm staying there 3 weeks every year?
Yeah.
That's the way I see it.
So look for where you have better return and then have a long-term plan. I know someone watching me saying, Kindness, I have to pay school fees. I have to, like the black tax, they are coming for me. Like at the end of the month, I don't even have 20. You're talking about 20. I'm trying to feed. What recommendation, what would you tell this person that is having this challenge now with black tax as someone that comes from Africa or from anywhere? Actually, black tax is not only Africans, because I've heard Asians as well in other parts of the world.
So regarding black tax, I'm lucky. Never experienced it, so I'm grateful. But I know people that have that. I wouldn't call it an issue because it's family. You need to take care of them. But that's where what I call budget. That's where budgeting comes into play, right? When you have a budget and you've listed it out: rent, feeding, transportation, internet, blah blah blah. Put in your black tax amount, and you have to ensure that if every month what I am sending home is, let's say, 100 euros. Once it exceeds 100 euros for that month, again, a lot of people can't do this. I can, because I have that discipline. I don't care what happens. As long as I have exhausted that 100 euros, you guys have to wait till next month. I'm not saying I wouldn't help, but I won't overstretch myself to get a loan to help you or to take out of my investment pot to help you. Yes, I would help. If it can wait till next month, fine. If it can't wait, get the money from elsewhere. I would refund it. That is how I would apply wisdom to it if I'm exposed to black tax. Have a budget. Don't cross it. Have a reasonable budget, right? You know how much you're sending to your dad, your mom, your brother. Then keep an allowance for just in case somebody breaks their leg and says, I need to go to the hospital. Keep an allowance. But most importantly, take care of yourself. I tell people, take care of yourself. People say you're selfish, but you need to take care of yourself and you need to take care of your future. Once you get paid, sort your bills, sort your investment, take care of yourself. My budget has what I call flex money, right? And it's just money I want to use to eat out, do random things. Some people say wasted, but I just want to take care of myself. Right? I'm the one working, I can as well take care of myself. So have that. Then I have a small bucket for black tax in case someone calls me. Now the beautiful thing is you might not exhaust it this month, so you can go over to next month. And in case somebody needs an extra, you can always now dish out. That's how I would handle black tax if it was something I was exposed to.
Yeah, that's very good. Like I like what you said. Take care of yourself. Take care of your future. So think about yourself and think about your future. I think that's one thing that should be ringing in our heads when we think, I cannot even keep my 50 euro to invest. Think about that, because if you don't have money in the future, you will actually not be able to help anybody anymore.
You need to understand your motive for investment, and it's dry. It keeps pushing you. Now, my motivation for investments are pretty much three. Number one, I want to retire early. I want to be able to provide the best things of life to my family. I was privileged to get that while growing up, and I need to be able to translate that. I know how much it helps me, right? So I want to translate that to my family and my kids. Then the third thing is I'm key about setting up a mini trust fund to the little of my ability for my kids. And the only way I can do that is by investing, handing that investment to them, and also helping them build an investment, ideology from the get-go, right? Because by the time you're a teenager, I make you understand I'm putting in XYZ into a trust fund for you. By the time you're age 20, you'll be able to have access to it. Then the kid already understands, has an idea of what investment is, and they can just carry on like that.
Yeah.
So what I was trying to allude to is know your motivation. Once you know your motivation, that way it pushes you, because in a point where you're like stretched and you're saying I wouldn't invest, when you remember that motivation, maybe every month you want to be putting in 100 euros, but you can't meet up for that month. You might be like, okay, let me just put in 50, because we're playing the long-term game, right? So statistically, as long as you are investing consistently over a period of time, for a long period of time, it's almost impossible for you to lose money. It's almost impossible. Again, we're talking track record of about 50 years. Again, it's dependent on if you are picking individual stocks, you might buy stocks that would eventually, companies that would go bankrupt, you lose your money in that instance. But if you are investing in certain indexes, like the S&P 500, the VTIs, the QQQ, in 30 years, there's a concept called I think average dollar costing or something, which means you're putting your money into something every month at a specific period of time over a 20-year period, 10-year period. The worst case scenario, you will get zero, right? And what that simply means is, even if you get zero interest, zero loss, you still have your money that you saved, which is your principal. And the other alternative is you would have spent it on random stuff that no longer have value, right? So regardless, you're still at equilibrium, but you saved a lot of money over a long period of time. The upside is, as you're saving, you're getting interest. What happening is you've made a whole lot of money or a whole lot of interest because you were disciplined over a period of time.
That's very, very interesting, because I've never thought about it that way. You talked about statistics. What statistics would you like to share with us when it comes to investing?
Okay, so here are the statistics. Let's assume you're 30 years old, right? You've never invested before. You want to start investing now. If from January 1st of this year, you put in every month 300 euros into an S&P 500, and we're working with the assumption that it keeps returning an average of 10%. What will end up happening is, in 25 years of investing 300 euros every month, you would have invested, or you would have put in 900k into the investment
as your capital,
as your capital or your principal. But the future value of your 900k would be 380,000. Now, where it gets dicey is someone that now puts in 1,000 every month, because the person is putting in more than you, 300, the person would have put in 300,000 as capital or as principal, but in 25 years, the 300,000 would now be 1.25 million. The same way someone that puts in 2,500 every month, in 25 years, you would have invested 750,000, but your future value would be 3,150,000.
So the higher you invest, the better.
That is why you must invest, because you are always better off. Imagine investing 90k in total, but you have 380,000. Imagine investing 750,000, and in 25 years you are retiring with 3-point-something million. It's significant. No reason not to invest. Again, it requires discipline. Because it requires a lot of discipline to save for the next 25 years. I want to put aside 300. I am lucky. I've always had that discipline. I've always been fascinated by investment, so it has never been a problem to me, right? But I understand that emergencies happen. People might find it a bit more difficult to stay consistent, but start. And if you are lucky enough to stay consistent, you will thank your future self will thank you. One of the things I plan to do for myself, and advise everyone to do it is from the moment I give birth to a kid, I plan to start open also a sort of investment profile for every kid. And the idea is if you invest or put aside 100 euros for that kid every month into a fund, by age 20, you would have put aside 24,000, but the money would have grown up to 72,000 euros. I don't think any of us, if our parents had given us 72k euros by age 20 and tell us, use this to buy a house, or use this as a down payment for your house, use this to buy yourself your first car, you would be grateful. So I hope to be able to, 100 euros, again, we are working with the assumption that, let's even say your income doesn't increase. And it's not possible. Your income would increase, you get married, you guys would join incomes together. So it's probably possible to set aside 100 euros for every kid. If you have 2, 3, whatever the case is, and in 20 years, you already have a good amount of money in investment. So you can then decide, do I want to transfer this investment account to the kid? Do I want to give them the money to do whatever they want to do with it? Or do you want to continue investing for them till age 25? Maybe for some reason you feel the child still needs to learn discipline. And you're like, yes, you have this amount yet, but I'm not going to hand it over to you. We want to test you for another 5 years and see if you get better. If you meet certain conditions, then we hand over the money to you. So there are different ways to go about it. But I'd like everyone to, to start, think about this and try to incorporate it.
So I think you've given us so many resources and so many information. I think the biggest thing is I'm so happy that you used 30 to start, as that start, because I know there are so many people that are 30 and they're like, oh, it's already too late for me. Like, where would I start? If I started 25, if I started when I was 21 or whatever, I would have, guys, you can start now. Okay, it doesn't matter, you're 35 even. Like, if you're 35, which means as much as possible, put more money into investment as much as you can. And like you said, your salary is always going to go up. So even if you're starting with 500, you can go up. And when you have those crazy emergencies, because emergencies are something that happen. I mean, there's Dave Ramsey that always talks about saving emergency fund, and that can, be that. But even if you had an emergency that you can save at least 100 instead of saving 300 that month. Put the 100 into investment instead of investing nothing at all. That may have saving when it comes to having money, budgeting, finance. Should I still be saving on the side while also doing investment?
Financial advisors would say yes, you have to save, right? And the thing about savings is it's in a more liquid form. In finance, what I mean by liquid is something you can easily get access to if in case of emergency. So yes, you have to save. And that is where your emergency funds come into place, right? So you can consider your emergency funds as your savings. And what you have to now do is don't put it in a checking account, put it in a savings account that still gives you about 0. whatever percent or 1 or 2%. So you're still getting some money off it, but it's not as much as what you would get if you had put it in an investment account, right? Saving is important. I personally, at the moment, I do not save. I do not see the need to save. And it's because, again, I have a budget. I have a every month budget as miscellaneous. It has my flex money. So I've not had the need to save or to have liquid cash and excess cash. I've noticed when I have excess cash, for some reason, somebody somewhere has a problem. That's when they call me. Because I have the cash, I can give it to you. But if you call me tomorrow and tell me you need 100 euros or 1,000 euros, I probably don't have it in liquid form. So I can't help you because I can't go to the bank to borrow money to help you, right? So I personally do not save. However, I have a credit card that has a crazy amount of limits. So that is my savings or emergency fund. I also don't have an emergency fund. I use my credit card as my emergency fund. I have a limit of about 5,000. I don't use it. So it's just there for, God forbid, I get into a serious issue where I need money. I can use my credit card. So that's the only reason I pay fee like about €5 every month for the credit card, even though I don't use it. But I just keep it there, like
emergency.
So that's my emergency fund / my savings. I don't save. However, it's nice to save, because of emergency.
Actually, I think there's a lot of resources on the internet as well that will help you make decision what is best for you and your own scenario. Remember, Dami doesn't have any black tax, doesn't have any mommy that is calling him to save money. So don't say you're not saving though. Okay. All right, about like finding brokers that allows you to transfer your money, because I think that's one other thing when it comes to investment. When you think about, wait, by the time I'm leaving, I have to I will lose money. So tell us something about that and how do we navigate that process, making sure that we don't lose after we've suffered to save our 2020 euro. How do we make sure that we don't get into paying that?
Checking terms and condition, chat with the customer support, ask them if they allow shares transfer.
Okay.
Revolut currently allows it now, unfortunately. I currently use Trade Republic as my broker. I use them because they allow. However, what I would say is don't get too caught up on stockbrokers that allow you to transfer your shares or not.
Okay.
Don't yet get caught up with that. Find a broker first. If you are able to find one that allows, all well and good. If you are able to find one that doesn't allow yet, start. While you're starting, while you're investing, start doing a research on the side, so that when your money gets up to a level, you can then decide, okay, do you guys now allow? No, let me sell off. Then move to your preferred broker, because like I said, you have to look at it as a partnership of 10, 20 years, and certain checklists needs to be met for that partnership to work.
Because the reason I asked this question, because I know there's some people that, for example, in Lithuania, and they know in the next 5 to 10 years, they're not going to be in Lithuania. So I need to make sure that they have that information.
You're not losing anything, you're just paying tax. Yes, but the government is not going to tax your money, the amount you put into the investment.
It's only your return.
So the example we made of you've invested 90,000, but you've made 380K in capital gains. The government is not taxing your 90K. So what will happen is there will be 380,000 minus 90K. Whatever that is,
that's what they're taxing,
which is now your profit or capital gain. The government is going to tax it.
Yeah.
They're going to take their bite of it.
Okay.
So technically you still have a lot of money, but it's still going to hurt you that, I'm just taking this. But yeah, you have to pay.
I think everybody that watched this video knows where to start now. And living in Europe is no longer any excuse. Is there anything else that you want to share with us when it comes to investing that we need to be aware of as we start our journey in 2025?
Make sure you start, regardless of how little it is. Build consistency in the sense of always putting something every month, regardless of how little it is. Know your risk tolerance, like how much am I willing to lose? Don't take crazy risk. Don't invest in high risk stuff. You can do it if you are in your early 30s, early 20s. You have a lot of time to cover. But if you are 40, you're close to retirement. Well, maybe not too close, but you're getting there. So you can't take as much risk as someone in their 20s would make, because they're just entering their peak earning season, right? Make sure you find a good broker and take advantage of tax accounts, if you tax-free accounts if you have. And people in the US, they have something called 401k, and there's another one for individuals. People in the US have I think ISA account. In the UK have ISA accounts. What these tax-free accounts do for you is when you sell stuff up to a limit, the government won't tax you. Right, so that's the advantage. So it would be nice to take advantage of those. Research it, whichever country you're living in. Just Google tax-free accounts. If any result comes up, take advantage of it. It's a way to keep more money in your pocket. So and that's pretty much all I have to say. There's power in compound interest, and what compound interest is like I said, continue buying without the plans of selling in the next 10 years. That's when you get actual return on investment, right? If you if someone invests 1,000 every month for 2 years, and somebody invests 300 every month for 10 years, you that invest 300 for 10 years would be better than the person that invested 1,000 for 2 years. You'd be better off. So time is your best friend. Compound interest is your next best friend, and you'll be better off eventually.
Wow, thank you so much, Dami. Like, I feel I feel ready. And I know people that watch this video feel ready. Remember, I think for me, that's what I'm thinking about. Remember to take care of yourself and take care of your future. And them is not only taking care of his future, he's taking care of the kids' future. They've not even arrived yet though. So I'm excited about that. And for my audience to start investing is January. So you have time today to start putting down your €100, your €50. Dami, thank you so much for joining us in this YouTube streets again. Thank you so much for joining and sharing your information. We're still gonna talk about like Lithuania, why you left Lithuania, and the process. So you have to come back to our YouTube channel to share more. And I think people will benefit from it. So thank you once again, and I wish you a wonderful day, guys. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and comment. Comment if you have any questions about investment, anything that we discussed today. Please leave it in the comment section, and Dami is going to be available, and so he might be able to provide us more answers in the comment section. Thank you guys, and have a good day. Bye.